Hello everyone and a very warm welcome to another lesson. In this lesson, we are going to learn about IELTS Writing Task 1. We are going to learn how to write a letter of complaint. This particular task is for the general training students. So if you're a general training student, this particular lesson is for you. Now, before we look at the question, I'm going to give you some tips that are extremely important when it comes to IELTS Writing Task 1 for the general training students. Now, remember, you will always get a letter. You should spend 20 minutes on writing the letter. Spend about 3 to 5 minutes planning and then the rest of the time writing. Always leave 2 minutes to check your letter for spelling or grammar mistakes. You will need a full 40 minutes for task 2, so don't go over 20 minutes for task 1. It is your responsibility to control the time in your writing test. Remember, you must write over 150 words. Always aim for between 160 and 180 words to be safe. Writing a letter of 300 words really is a waste of time. Your letter is worth 33% of your final writing score. You do not need to write an address on the letter. Pay close attention to who you're writing to and the relationship you have with that person, because this will determine your style of writing and your tone. Also, pay attention to the aim and the purpose of the letter. It is essential that you use the 3 points to structure your letter and provide the foundation of the information. All points must be included clearly in your letter. If you fail to include all the points in your letter, your band score will be lower. You must use your imagination to fill in details and decide the names of the people in your letter. Always begin your letter by addressing the person and then an opening line, and always make sure you sign off appropriately. Now that I've given you a few tips on IELTS Writing Task 1 for the general training student, let's get into our question. The question is, work is being done on the street where you live. The noise is disturbing you. Write a letter of complaint to your local council. In your letter, A, introduce yourself. B, explain what the problem is. C, suggest solutions to the problem. So the first step is to make sure that you understand the question. In this particular question, we are being told that work is being done on the street where you live. So in the street where you live, there are some road works. The roads are being repaired and the noise is really disturbing you. So write a letter of complaint to your local council. The fact that you're writing a letter to the local council means that this is a formal letter. So we have to end it with yours faithfully. In your letter, you're supposed to include 3 points. A, you're supposed to introduce yourself. B, you're supposed to explain what the problem is. And C, you're supposed to suggest solutions to the problem. Now, let's begin the structure of the letter. The structure of the letter is going to be a letter that is a formal letter. So we are going to follow the structure of a formal letter because you're writing this letter to the local council. So it is a formal letter. We begin with step 1. Step 1 is to write the salutation. The salutation in this case is a formal salutation, so we are going to use dear sir stroke madam because you don't know who you are addressing the letter to. You don't know whether the person who is going to read the letter is a man or a woman. So you start with dear sir stroke madam. Remember to punctuate that correctly. You begin with dear, which is capital D. Sir should be capital S. Then you have stroke, and then madam should be capital M. And don't forget your comma. Dear sir, stroke madam, comma. That is the first step. Then let's move on to the second step. In the second step, you're going to introduce your letter. You're going to introduce the reason why you're writing the letter. Okay, so the second step is really where you're supposed to introduce what the problem is. Why are you writing the letter? And according to the question, it is about roadworks that are going on that are disturbing you. So you begin by, I am writing this letter to complain about the unbearable noise due to the roadworks close to my home address. You always begin with, I am writing this letter to, when it is a formal letter. I am writing this letter to, okay, I am writing this letter to complain about the unbearable noise. So the noise is unbearable. The noise is very, very irritating. It is unbearable. You can't stand it anymore. About the unbearable noise, and then you explain why. You introduce the reason using the linking word due to, okay, due to the roadworks close to my home address. So when the receiver reads that first paragraph, they know immediately why you're writing the letter. You're writing to complain about the unbearable noise due to the roadworks. So where is the noise coming from? It is coming from the roadworks close to your home address. Your home address is where you live. Now, once you have made it very clear in the first paragraph, that is the opening paragraph, why you're writing the letter, then you move on to step 2, or rather step 3. In step 3, we are going to make sure that we structure it based on the first point. The first point is, in your letter A, introduce yourself. Introduce yourself. Remember, we said that you have to make sure that your letter is structured around the points. So you have to make sure you include a paragraph on each of the 3 points. Now, so in paragraph 3, or rather, step 3, we are going to introduce ourselves. Who are you? My name is James Parker, and I have been living in my current address for the last 50 years. I live in 15 Kennedy Street with my wife Amy and 2 sons, Jack and Rupert. Now, in that paragraph, I have really introduced myself very clearly. So when the receiver receives the letter, he knows who the writer of the letter is, the name of the person, how long he has been living in his current address, where he lives, who he lives with, I have introduced myself thoroughly. I've pointed out what my name is. My name is James Parker, and I have been living in my current address for the last 50 years. I live in 15 Kennedy Street. That is the name of my address. That is my address. And I live with my wife Amy and 2 sons, Jack and Rupert. So I have introduced myself thoroughly. Then I move on to step 4. And in step 4, I am going to write about the second point. And the second point, according to IELTS, which is B, explain what the problem is. So in this particular paragraph, I'm going to explain the problem in details. Now, step 4, we begin the paragraph. Although I have always enjoyed the peace and tranquility of my street, the last 2 months have been a nightmare living here due to the ongoing roadworks outside my house. The noise from the digging and flattening machines is extremely loud and non-stop since it goes on even late at night. As a result, my family and I have had to contend with a lot of sleepless nights and headaches. So in that paragraph, I have explained in details what the problem is. First of all, I started in a positive way. Although I have always enjoyed the peace and tranquility of my street, so I have always enjoyed living on my street. But the last 2 months have been a nightmare living here. Due to, and then I explain the reason why it has been a nightmare living there, and that is due to the ongoing roadworks. Ongoing means that it's continuous. It does not stop. The ongoing roadworks outside my house. And then I've explained how the roadworks have caused a lot of disturbance. The noise from the digging and the flattening machines. So you have these machines that are digging and flattening things. They're extremely loud and non-stop. Non-stop means it's continuous since it goes on even at night. And then I've explained how it has affected me. As a result, my family and I have had to contend with. To contend with means to put up with, to deal with. Contend with means deal with a lot of sleepless nights and headaches. So I have explained in details what the problem is, what has caused the problem, okay? What has caused the problem and how it has affected me and my family. Okay, what the problem is, how it has affected me, okay, and my family. What has caused it also. I have made sure that I have given enough details about the second point B. Explain what the problem is. And now we move on to the next step, and that is step 5, where I'm going to include details about the third point, point C. Suggest solutions to the problem. So in this particular paragraph, I'm going to give some solutions, suggest some solutions that I think the local council should implement to solve the problem. So I begin that paragraph, that is step 5. To resolve this problem, resolve simply means solve. I'm aiming for band 9, so I'm trying to use band 9 vocabulary. To resolve this problem, I propose means suggest. To resolve this problem, I propose that the roadworks only take place during the day when most of the residents on our street are at work or in school. Besides that, the noise disturbance could be minimized through the use of less noisy excavating diggers and switching off the engines when they are not in use. So, to resolve this problem, that is to solve the problem, I suggest that the roadworks only take place during the day. So that is my proposition, that is my suggestion, that the roadworks should only take place during the day, when most of the residents are the people who live there, when most of the residents, that is the people who live in my street, are at work or in school. And then I have another suggestion to solve the problem. Besides that, the noise disturbance could be minimized. Minimized means made less. Okay, it could be made less through the use of less noisy excavating diggers and switching off the engines when they're not in use. So my second solution is that they could minimize the noise by using diggers, that is machines that are less noisy. And also another solution is when they are not using these machines, they should switch them off. They should switch off the engines. Okay? Now, that brings me to, so in paragraph 3, I have included the first point, introduce yourself. That is in step 3. In step 4, I included details about this, the second point, and that is point B. Explain what the problem is. And then in step 5, I included details about the third point, that is point C. Suggest solutions to the problem. Now, once I have included all the points, then I move on to step 6, where it is a kind of conclusive line, a conclusive paragraph, so to speak. Okay, step 6. Now, kindly do resolve this issue as soon as possible. Resolve means solve. Kindly do resolve this issue. This issue here refers to the problem of the disturbance due to the roadworks on my street. So kindly, please, instead of saying please, you can use kindly. Kindly do resolve this issue as soon as possible. Thank you in advance. You want to end the letter in a very polite way. Remember, this is a formal letter, okay? Kindly do resolve this issue as soon as possible. Thank you in advance. Okay, so step 6 is really a conclusion. And then you move on to step 7, and step 7 is where you're using your closing remarks. Okay, you're ending the letter. Yours faithfully, because this is a formal letter. Yours faithfully. Okay, we use faithfully. Yours faithfully. And remember that comma at the end of faithfully. Okay? Yours faithfully, comma. And then you move on to step 8, where you write your name. Okay? Your full name, James Parker. Okay? So just to take you through the steps. Step 1 is your salutation. Dear Sir, Madam. Don't forget the comma. Don't forget the capital S and the capital M. Now, step 2 is your introduction, okay, where you explain very clearly why you're writing the letter. Step 3 is IELTS point 1, that is introduce yourself. Step 4 is IELTS second point, that is point B, explain what the problem is. And then step 5 is IELTS step point C, suggest solutions to the problem. And then step 6 is concluding the letter. Step 7 is signing off the letter. And step 8 is writing your name, your full name. Okay, so that's how you're supposed to structure this particular letter of complaint. Remember, you should have 8 steps. This is a formal letter. Always try to make sure you have your 8 steps. Introduce, you have your salutation, and because you don't know whether it's a man or a woman, it is very important that you include Sir / Madam. And then step 2, introduce why you're writing the letter, and then after that include 3 paragraphs on the 3 different points that IELTS has instructed you to include in your letter. And then step 6, conclude your letter. Step 7, sign off your letter. Remember, this is a formal letter, so always use faithfully and don't forget the comma at the end of faithfully. And then step 8, write your name. Okay, your full name. All right, so there you go. That's how you're supposed to write this letter. I've given you some tips on how to ensure that you do it within the correct time, and also that you leave some time to cross-check and correct your mistakes. Now, if you found this video lesson helpful, please give this video a thumbs up, share the video with somebody else, help somebody else by sharing the video, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn your notification bell on so that you know when I upload another helpful lesson. Okay, now thank you very much everyone, and I shall see you in our next video. Bye bye and take care.